Ghost Recon Breakpoint, the newest edition since Wildlands, had its open beta last weekend, and today I wanted to give you guys my impressions so far. You play as Nomad, the protagonist from Wildlands who's sent onto the fictional island of Aroa, owned by a rich tech entrepreneur, Jay Skell, who runs Skell Technology, a company that produces drones for commercial use which have now been weaponized for the US government. The drones crash your plane and you are the sole surviving ghost of your platoon. Shortly after landing, or crashing as it were, you come up against the bad guys, who in this case are a private military contractor named Sentinel, whom are led by Cole D. Walker, a ghost and friend of Nomad's who's gone rogue and taken over the island. So after a brief introduction, you're led to the secret waterfall cave hideout of the Resistance in this game. The area acts as a player hub similar to ones found in Destiny or The Division. So here you can interact with other players, inspect them, join them for co-op play, shop for weaponry, and of course pick up missions. So you have your main missions and side missions, and then faction missions, which are quite quick to complete. You're usually tasked with hacking a computer or destroying a vehicle, and these can often be accomplished close to another objective. There isn't any real story behind them, but as you complete faction missions, you unlock what can only be described as loot boxes really, which contain anything from cosmetic items to weapon blueprints to vehicles, and yes, if you were wondering, these can be unlocked faster via microtransactions. So let's start with the good stuff, shall we? First off, it looks pretty sexy. I have everything maxed out bar a few settings like volumetric fog and shadows, which really hit performance hard. In particular, I don't think I've ever seen a game where foliage looks this good. Performance is okay. I'm getting around 80 to 90 frames playing at 1440p on a 2080 Ti. Overall, I would say that's acceptable. However, I have had much better performance in other games of similar graphical fidelity. Of course, these numbers could improve over time with better drivers. So fans of Wildlands will find a lot of familiarity with this game. It's still a big open world setting, and it's still about taking out outposts and enemy bases, but there are a few key differences. In this game, you can pick one of 4 classes: Assault, Sharpshooter, Panther, or Field Medic, which gives you access to certain class-specific skills. So in classic Ghost Recon style, I am playing as a Sharpshooter. These classes can be switched between though whenever you make camp, or bivouac as it's called in the game. Now weapons and attachments are found through gathering intel, perhaps on a computer, a notepad, or even interrogating enemy soldiers. Although I did find the interrogation somewhat lacking. There was no dialogue from the soldier in question, he just gave up the information instantly without saying a word. I feel a Splinter Cell touch would have been great here. Those interrogation scenes always made for interesting and often funny gameplay. But in this game, you can always get weapons and armor directly off fallen soldiers or crates which are hidden amongst the enemy base. I must say though, I find this system very reminiscent of the Division series, which a lot of hardcore Ghost Recon fans may dislike, and I'm not sure this feels like the right design choice in a tactical shooter. It just feels a bit surreal and RPG-like, having green or blue coloured drops all over the map. On the whole, I did enjoy the gameplay during the time I spent with the beta. Deciding how to take down an enemy outpost was enjoyable, but I feel that players will get bored with this quickly. Most of the missions involve clearing an outpost or base, grabbing some intel, and then heading to the next outpost to do exactly the same thing with only some bad voice acting to tide you over in between. Well, perhaps with the exception of John Bernthal, who does a pretty good job voicing Walker, the game's antagonist. There really wasn't much variety, and this game feels like it puts most of its stock in the single player experience. Weapon feel and sound could have been done way better in this game. How awesome would it be to set up on a mountainside hundreds of meters from an enemy base, sniping your targets one by one, and listening to those shots echoing off the mountainside with a loud boom. After playing other titles like Battlefield and the new Modern Warfare, the sound design in this game just doesn't compare. The enemy AI is not much of a challenge either. If you're far away enough, they just take cover behind something obvious and don't really bother searching for you. I still remember the feeling of playing Metal Gear Solid 2 for the first time, and having the soldiers perform a thorough search, opening lockers and the like until they were satisfied you'd left the area, and only then would they call off the search. And that game came out 18 years ago. Now, movement is a bit of a mixed bag. Overall, it's very realistic, watching Nomad painstakingly scale the side of a gorge, but then at the same time, the walking animations look half broken and almost as if he's done a number 2 in his army trousers. The UI is obviously made with consoles in mind and is a pain to navigate for PC players, forcing you to scroll with W, A, S and D as opposed to being able to use your mouse wheel. You also have to hold down the use key on literally everything for a couple of seconds before the command goes through, which is super tedious. We're all grown-ups here, Ubisoft, we know which buttons we're pressing. Now, something I do love in this game, however, are the vehicles. You can purchase these via the in-game Skell credits, which is the currency of the island, and then spawn one of your choosing every time you make camp, from motorcycles to full-on attack choppers, complete with gunner seat. So if you have some friends to play with, you're going to have a great time. However, if you don't, you can use the game's built-in matchmaking system to team up with others in search of a party. Now, whilst this system does work, there are some things that confuse me. I would have thought after finding a party member, they would seamlessly join your world and one of you can fast travel to the other. Boom, job done. But whenever I partied with somebody, I had to endure a lengthy loading screen and was consequently whisked away to some other part of the island. So if you were close to your mission and wanted a buddy to help you out, guess what? You're going to have to make your way back there. Also, whenever a squad member decides he wants to make camp, you're also teleported to that camp regardless of if you need to make use of it or not. So the PvP mode we got to try out was called Ghost War, which puts you in a 4v4 scenario with a twist. Unlike in most other games, here you can be revived by your teammates should you get shot, so you can potentially turn, say, a 1v2 into a 4v2, should you be stealthy enough to pull it off. There's also a surveillance system which spawns in the middle of the map, and if you can make your way there to hack it, that will give you the locations of all your enemies. So it's up to you whether you risk putting yourself out there and making your way to the center of the map, or trying to find your enemies in other ways. Most people in the beta were playing as the sharpshooter class, so it was a bit of a campy experience, but on the whole, I found it quite enjoyable. So, conclusion time then. I have to be honest, I did enjoy my time playing the beta, but I think I would get bored after a few missions and the same repetitive gameplay. To me, the game feels far too close to something like The Division, a little bit too arcadey and looter-shooter, and less like a realistic tactical shooter. But that's not to say it's a bad game by any means. If you played Wildlands and enjoyed that game, you're probably going to find what you're looking for in this Ghost Recon experience as well. And if you're somebody who enjoys games like The Division, this will also be right up your street. However, if you're looking for a slightly more hardcore tactical experience, then you might want to give this one a pass. So there we go, guys. What do you think of the game? Did you try out the beta for yourselves? Leave me your comments and your thoughts down below. Like the video if you liked it, and if not, a dislike. Tell me what you thought. Subscribe for more content, and I'll see you all in the next video.
This feels great! Like we're gonna kick some ass! This feels awesome.